This is a tutorial on how to get from Autodesk Inventor to the Tinkerine software to 3D print your project. So in here we have a part that has been made for a useless box, and we're going to take that out to the 3D printer right now. So to start off with, we go to the application menu. From the application menu we're going to go to export, and from export we're going to go to CAD format. Okay, in the CAD format here, we're going to use the Save As type, and we're going to drop down, and we're going to go to STL. STL stands for stereolithography file, and it's a generic file that can be used for 3D printers. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is go into Options, and in Options here, there's Units, and this is the very important one. Okay, when you export, because the Tinkerine deals in millimeters, it's Canadian by the way, we're going to select millimeters, so therefore when it comes out from Inventor, it goes into the software right away in the correct size. So we're going to click the millimeters. Don't worry about the rest of the stuff here, resolutions and things like that. It's not a big thing on this project. So click on OK. You can see I've already done this before, so I'm just going to say useless base for useless box. Yeah, we'll just save over top of it. And do you want to replace it? Yes, we do. Okay, in this case. So, I'm going to switch over to the other software now. So here's the Tinkerine software. And the first thing I do is go import, and I have to go find it, and there you can see it's right there. And we open it up, and you see it comes in. A couple quick things here. You can see down the bottom the size of it, right? So that if you converted it back to inches, you would see that that's the same size in the Inventor software. And basically here I'm just going to click on here, and I'm going to turn this flat, and I'm going to go lay flat. Now I'm going to use my right mouse button, and you can see I can drag, and I'm holding my right mouse button. You can see that it's all flat down there. Okay, and this is very important. If it's not flat, you are in trouble. Okay, so that's basically it there. I could center it and duplicate it if I want multiple copies. I tend to not make multiple copies of things because if it screws up, it screws them all up, not just one. Okay, now settings. I'm just going to go back up top here to advanced. When you first start this software up, it actually looks like this, and you don't have as many settings. So there's advanced and show advanced settings. So we'll go through these, and I'll do one more thing. So this is your resolution, and if I click on it, you can see low, medium, high, and ultra. The difference here is just how much detail you can get in. For this thing, we don't need a lot of detail. You'll never see it again, so we're going to use low. Infill. All depends on what you're doing. If it's and it also depends on surfaces. So I can't use hollow on this because this is a huge surface, and there would be nothing underneath supporting it. So this material would sag here. So we're not going to use hollow. We're going to use sparse, and you can see the density is 18. Okay, walls is how many times it goes around the outside or across the top here. That's kind of like your skin, so if you have too thin a wall, it can break through and stuff. So in this case, 2 or 3 work. I'm noticing sometimes with this project you might want to use 3, especially on lighter colors like white, because you might actually be able to see the inside kind of honeycomb shape later on. So I'm going to set it to 3 just to show you the time stuff. Supports. What happens with supports is basically, actually let me just move this here. So when I 3D print this, and I'm going to scroll in right now so you can see this, when I 3D print, because I'm on a curve here, I don't necessarily need supports, right? This very top bit I might need it, but it's quite close. Here, it's going to go across here, and this is up in the middle of nowhere, so it's going to want to sag a tiny bit. Now, this distance isn't that great, it's about 1 inch and a bit, so it won't sag too much, but it will sag. So I'm going to put on full supports, and what's going to happen is it will build inside here. And you'll see that afterwards. So we're going to click on full. The filament here, leave it at that. The speed, leave it at 70. And temperature, I think default's at 220. We're going to set it down to 205. All right, so I'm going to click on slice. And what you're going to see is it's slicing up in here. Okay, and what it's going to do is it's going to build, and you can see the supports going in right there. So that's basically what the supports do, and it just shows you that they're there. Okay, a couple other things to look at right now. Down at the bottom here, you're going to see print time is about 1 hour. Filament usage is 18 grams, and I'm at 50 cents or 5 cents a gram. So you're looking at, that's less than $1. And that's about it. So the next step would be save for print. Now the last thing I want to show you before I get there is this whole sparse and stuff. If I can go up to advanced, and I can actually go open debug settings. And what happens, and let me just move it over to here. What happens is here's where you can start changing things. I don't want you then the first time to start in here. You don't change travel speeds and perimeter speed and stuff. But the one you could do is infill. If you really wanted it a bit more infill or a bit less, you could change this infill right here. right? But that basically is, and just don't change any of this, whatever you do. Okay, so basically that's how you get to if you don't like the infill for here. So the last step is save for 3D printing. Okay, and you can see I don't have an SD card in right now, but if you had an SD card in, you would simply go SD card and you click on it. Otherwise, right now I'm just going to go on my computer, and I would basically just call it and a name. And in this case, what I want to do is I want to make sure it's a name that's useful to me. So I'm going to use my first name, and I'm going to use base. And what that does is at least I know whose it is when, or somebody else knows whose file is in the 3D printer when you go to 3D print it. And you click on save, and then after that you would basically be at the point of going back to a 3D printer and pressing print. So that concludes this tutorial on how to get from Inventor to the Tinkerine software.